Well, glory be and mercy me. We've done it yet again. Here we are on our daily walk, walking around the graveyard, celebrating the collapse of capitalism. Today, we are talking very specifically about Justin Trudeau's evoking of the Emergency Measures Act. First things first, right? We've heard the Trudeau administration talk about emergencies before. Remember when they declared climate change an emergency and then proceeded to increase production of fossil fuels by a pipeline, right? Increase emissions. You know, my favorite was when they went to COP26 and came out saying, we're going to get to net zero by 2050, and then increased production and emissions by 30%, like literally in the same breath. So when these guys evoke the Emergency Measures Act, I assume it's going to amount to not much of anything, honestly, because when these guys declare emergencies, that's essentially what they do. Why are they evoking the Emergency Measures Act? They're evoking it because a group of these trucker protesters have taken over critical infrastructure, bridges, and the like. Something I've been saying that we, on the left, should be doing. Absolutely. We should be grinding the wheels of capitalism to a halt, using our bodies if necessary. Here's the truckers. Here they're doing it. I don't think it makes any sense why they're doing what they're doing for the reasons what they're doing, right? Like, literally, let's grind down the infrastructure so that we can have these mandates lifted and I'll go back to Denny's. Like, that's essentially as far as they get. Interesting how emergency measures aren't really evoked when it comes to things like mass homelessness, right? If your parks are filled with homeless people, if you have enormous crises going on in your society created by the capitalist system where, let's say, 60% of the populace is saying that they're struggling to get food on their table. Let's say we're living in a country where, let's say 50% of people are saying that they're struggling to pay the bills. Let's say, just as an example, there was like a housing crisis going on where housing prices were skyrocketing and rents were skyrocketing along with them, as the capitalist death cult actually increases prices and blaming inflation for it. Let's just say that these enormous, massive social and financial crises were actually happening. Well, we don't have any evoking of any emergencies. We don't have any declaration that we need to actually put in some sort of emergency power or anything like this. There's no talk at all about emergency support systems. In fact, the only emergency support system that we actually got during this entire period of time was the CERB, right? Which was erected as emergency support system for the pandemic and was promptly dismantled. So literally, they erected a basic income in front of our eyes and then dismantled it the moment they realized that, if this becomes entrenched public policy, people will actually want it to continue. People will actually want rational solutions to their emergency crises problems to continue. And we, the capitalist death cult who's interested in wage slavery, can't have that. So there's a pretty major inconsistency in the way the Trudeau administration is treating emergencies, right? If Karen, in her middle class house out in the suburbs, can't get that specific doll she's looking for, right? If she can't get her toys that she's looking for because there's a blockade on the border, well, then that's an emergency that needs to be dealt with immediately. But if a Canadian citizen can't find a place to live and lives on the streets because of it, that's fine. Free market will decide, right? They just need to pull themselves up with the bootstraps and maybe get a job, right? Get a job, even though something like 40% of the homeless population is actually working anyway. But the Liberals don't really care about any of this, right? Like, at the end of the day, the evoking of the Emergency Measures Act really just shows you where their priorities lie. That if anything is done to upset the bottom line of the capitalist death cult at all for any amount of time, we need to treat this as a high-level emergency. We need to get the police involved. We need to be talking about getting the army involved, getting the military involved. But if it's something that isn't really affecting the bottom line of the capitalist death cult, well, then we'll just abandon those people, right? We can see this, like we're witnessing this, especially as we move forward without any kind of stable support systems in the society, right? We are building our own crises. We are building and these crises are going to get more serious. They're going to get more devastating for the public. And where is our political class on any of this, right? And this leads people down the garden path. When someone says that, like the far right, they treat Trudeau as if he is this demon creature, right? You've got the fuck Trudeau signs all over the place. You have them literally talking about hanging Trudeau and all of these sorts of things. And it's because of the abandonment that he is inflicting on behalf of the death cult on the populace. And so when he evokes this Emergency Measures Act, it really does make you scratch your head and start to ask yourself, hey, who is my leadership working for? And if he's only going to evoke emergencies and actually do something when rich people need help, it really begins to smack of the word is authoritarian, right? If you abandon the majority of the populace to quote unquote market forces, or as I like to say, the psychopathic whims of a callous, cruel, unmerciful corporate class, if that's how you operate, well, you're going to lose support, right? I can see lots of liberals looking at this evocation of the Emergency Measures Act and thinking to themselves, is this the guy that I'm actually supporting? Is this the guy where the moment that there is a crisis that affects the billionaire class, he hops to, but I've got homeless people living in my parks, and all we can do about that is throw cops at them? Huh. Interesting. And not that Justin Trudeau cares. There's sort of this odd idea that we'll get back at Trudeau by voting him out. It's like, he doesn't care about that. Like, he's just going to go work for the billionaire class. That's part of his trajectory. He knows that that's what's going to happen. So why are we even talking about it? Oh, quite icy in this section here. I'm walking up a hill and it's just like a slick of ice. What an emergency. What an emergency. So the true reality of this Emergency Measures Act moment is the realization, and it should be the realization for all liberals, that Justin Trudeau and the ruling class of the liberals have never been interested in governing. They've never been interested in actually erecting any kind of system to actually help anyone who's in an actual crisis. But when it comes to ensuring that the billionaires are going to have their money from selling toys and dumb shit to the Karens of the world, oh yeah, he's all over that. He's hopping all over that. Why are we still voting for this guy? Why are we still supporting the liberals? Especially as they reveal that when they declare emergencies to help the populace, like the climate change emergency, well, they're full of shit. At this stage in the game, there is no one in the power structure that is actually interested in confronting capital. This is why I say we should surround the halls of power. We should lock down critical infrastructure. I don't agree with what these truckers are doing in terms of their goals, right? Just reopen is not a good idea, especially as the system of abandonment is the system that we're putting in control after we open everything up. But I agree with their energy, and I agree with them in spirit, and I agree completely with their tactics. We should absolutely be locking down critical infrastructure. We should be grinding this capitalist system to a halt. We should be draining its life's blood. We should, in the end of it all, we should abandon it back. All right, this is the end of this video, guys. Whew. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe. YouTube suppresses my content just like it suppresses all leftist content, right? Doesn't want us to get a seat at the table, and it's getting quite dangerous, right? Go and watch any of your panel shows. What you'll see is a far-right neo-fascist, maybe a red Tory type conservative, and a liberal sitting around talking about how to solve the problem without confronting capital. And no one is sitting at the table going, wait a minute, we can get these problems solved without capital, or through the usage or the express usage of capital without the permission of the capitalist class. No one's sitting around saying this. No one is in the discussion talking this way, and it's gotten dangerous. So you've got to support leftist voices, and the way to do that is by sharing the content, or I got a Patreon down below. Think about donating. Even $1 would help, guys. All right. Always remember, you are a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. The billionaire class is spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes that you won't realize it and stay the good little commodity that you're just supposed to be. Rebel, revolt, repent. Good luck. We're gonna need it.